The desert was no longer a silent witness. It had become a graveyard of legends. The wreckage of titans lay half-buried in the dunes, their metallic bones protruding like the ribs of fallen gods. Above them, the twin suns bled their heat across an already tortured horizon. Horus, the Egyptian warrior who had turned despair into defiance, stood among the remnants with his spear glowing faintly. His body, broad as an ancient pillar and etched with scars that now told the story of survival, reflected the fusion of past and future. Golden Egyptian cuirass layered with nanomesh plates, hieroglyphic tattoos intertwined with circuit patterns, and a mask carved in the image of a falcon, half god, half soldier. This was not the same man who first stood against the snake titan in the ruins of Luxor. That battle had broken the old order, but it had not ended the war. From the shadows of the dying titans, new predators had begun to emerge. Wolf titans, leaner, faster, more cunning, designed to hunt humanity where it felt safest. In its tribes, its homes, its unity. The sands shifted with the whisper of their approach. Horus crouched, fingers brushing the charred skull of one of his fallen men. His heart was a storm of guilt and rage. The price of every battle was written in names, names that were now lost to the wind. They learn and they return, he murmured. A voice crackled in his earpiece. Commander Imani, leader of the Nile resistance, spoke with urgency. Horus, we've intercepted transmissions from the northern ridge. Multiple heat signatures, moving in a pack. This isn't another probe. They're hunting you. Horus stood slowly, the heat shimmering around his massive frame. Good, he said. Let them find me. He looked westward, where the skeletal remains of an ancient temple jutted from the sands like the teeth of a buried predator. It would be there, he decided. The battleground of gods and monsters. That night, the desert came alive with a different kind of silence, the silence that comes before massacre. The first of the wolf titans emerged under the moons, its frame a grotesque mix of sinew and alloy, claws tipped with molten obsidian, and eyes that pulsed like dying stars. It did not roar. It only stared, head low, ears twitching, the way wolves do when they smell the heartbeat of their prey. Behind it, 5 more moved in a half-circle. Horus gripped his spear tighter, the nano-edge humming as its ancient runes ignited. Around his neck, a small talisman gleamed, a relic from the old world, said to carry the blessing of Anubis. He whispered to himself, for every soul they took, for every city they burned. And then he moved first. The battle began not with a roar, but with a whisper of sand. Horus dashed forward with a speed that belied his size, spear thrusting at the first wolf's throat. The titan's hide split with a scream that sounded almost alive, part machine, part beast. Sparks showered the dunes. The others responded instantly. Claws slashed through the night, tearing trenches in the sand. Horus rolled, shield snapping open with a metallic shriek, absorbing a strike that would have split a tank in half. He fought like a storm given form, brutal, efficient, a mix of ancient spear forms and modern combat algorithms. But this was no ordinary pack. The wolves coordinated, flanking him, driving him toward the ruins where shadows deepened. As the fight dragged, Horus realized the truth. They were not here just to kill him. They were testing him. Every move he made, every feint and strike, was met with a measured response. Somewhere, far beyond the dunes, something was learning, watching. And then, the largest of them stepped forward, twice the size of the others, plated in dark steel and ancient bone. Its jaws bristled with cybernetic fangs. It did not rush him. It simply howled, and from the ruins, a hidden array pulsed once, sending a signal into the night. Horus heard the echo not with his ears, but in the deep ache of the earth. This is not the hunt, he muttered. This is the call. He struck the alpha, but the spear only glanced off its hide. In that moment, the pack lunged as one. Claws raked his chest plate, teeth sank into his shoulder, and the world became a storm of sand and blood. He roared, not in pain, but in defiance. Nanoplates shattered, muscles tore, and still he fought. Every drop of blood that fell was a promise. If humanity was to be buried, it would be buried standing. When the dust cleared, 3 wolves lay crippled. Two limped back into the night. The Alpha still stood, unscathed, its eyes locked on him. And then it turned and fled, not in defeat, but with purpose. "They're leading me somewhere," Horus growled. Above, the desert sky shimmered with falling ash, the sign of something vast awakening. The transmission had been brief, too brief. A single coded pulse, older than any encryption Horus had seen in his campaigns against the Titans, yet stamped with the seal of the High Command. It didn't carry words. It carried a frequency, a call sign last used during the first siege of Luxor, nearly 3 decades ago. He knew what that meant. Only one thing was left buried deep enough, silent long enough, and forbidden enough to use that frequency. Project Anubis. He secured Sefiu's skull, sealing it in a carbon crate marked for remembrance, then turned to his squad. 9 soldiers remained. That was all. Once, his unit had been a legion, 3,000 men and women, sworn to stand between Titans and the living. Now it was 9, and they were all that stood between humanity and the Wolf Titan. "Mount up," Horus ordered, his voice gravel and steel. "We move to the Scar Basin. No lights. No transmissions. We are ghosts now." The Scar Basin was a wound in the desert, a chasm carved not by water, but by war. It stretched for 60 kilometers, rimmed by the ruins of old solar cities, empty husks that once harvested the sun and now reflected only cold starlight. The convoy slid silently through the sand, hovercraft muffled, each soldier's face lit only by the pale glow of HUD readouts. Kia, his second in command, finally spoke what they were all thinking. "Sir, Project Anubis was shut down for a reason. They said it woke something." Horus didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed ahead, where the horizon shimmered unnaturally, a ripple in the desert, as if something massive was breathing beneath the sand. "They said the same about the snake," he replied. "And here we stand, alive only because we broke every rule they wrote." Hours passed. The temperature dropped until the desert was more ice than ash. As the twin moons crossed paths overhead, the squad reached the basin's edge. And there it was, a monolith of black steel, half buried in the sand, tilted like a broken fong. Symbols crawled across its surface, ancient glyphs fused with alien script, glowing faintly as though stirred by their presence. Juno, the youngest of the squad, lifted his scanner. "Sir, it's emitting the same signature that came from the snake titan before it woke up. But this one's colder, hungrier." Horus felt his fingers tighten around the grip of his spear. The desert wind howled through the basin, carrying a sound that was almost laughter. Not a titan's roar. Not yet. But a promise. Then the ground split. At first, they thought it was a tremor. Then the sand fell away in sheets, cascading down the monolith sides. Beneath them, a cavern yawned open, lined with obsidian teeth, each one etched with the same script. And deep inside that darkness, a shape stirred. 2 eyes. Silver. Reflective. Predatory. The wolf had seen them. "Contact." Horus roared. "Defensive perimeter. Now." But the creature did not charge. It smiled. A wolf-shaped silhouette, towering and skeletal, its body forged of bone-white plates and sinew that shimmered like moonlit ice. No fur. No warmth. Only hunger. And behind it more eyes blinked open. Not one titan. Not 2. A pack. Kia's hand trembled on her rifle. "Sir, how many?" Horus did not answer. His mind raced through every record, every ancient myth they had mocked as superstition. Wolves that hunted beneath eclipses, guardians of forgotten tombs, scavengers of gods. It made sense now. The snake had been the herald. The wolf was the executioner. "Enough to finish what the snake began," Horus said coldly. "And enough for us to end tonight or end them forever." He keyed his mask, voice dropping to a whisper across the squad channel. Project Anubis wasn't a weapon to kill titans. It was a cage to keep these inside. As the pack began to crawl from the abyss, the wind carried a sound that froze every soldier's blood. A howl. Low. Resonant. Ancient. It was not a challenge. It was a signal. From somewhere beyond the horizon, other howls answered. The desert would not sleep again. The howl faded, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. Sand hissed across steel, and the world seemed to pause, the moment between a lightning flash and the thunder that follows. Every soldier felt it in their marrow, the weight of something older than nations, older than war, rising to greet them. Horus broke the stillness first. Form diamond. No stray fire. Target the eyes. If it bleeds, it dies. But deep down, he didn't believe that. This was not a creature born of flesh and fear. This was an edict, shaped like a predator. The first wolf leapt. It didn't emerge like the snake, slow, hulking, unstoppable. It came like a fragment of night, launched upward with such force that the sands followed in a geyser. Its claws tore through rock like parchment. Its eyes locked on Juno. Juno fired 3 plasma rounds. They hit. The wolf dissolved into mist, then reformed behind him. Move, Horus bellowed. Too late. The creature's jaws snapped shut on Juno's rifle, shearing it in half like sugarcane. Sparks and bone splinters sprayed the sand. Juno lived barely, because Horus slammed his energy spear into the wolf's flank, unleashing a charge that would have torn a tank apart. It staggered. It did not fall. Kia's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, it's not fully here. Look, its shadow doesn't match its body. Horus saw it now. The wolf flickered at the edges, as though half in this world, half in another. The monolith behind it pulsed in rhythm, drawing power from somewhere far below. The cage wasn't just broken. It was opening. Suppressive fire on the glyphs. Horus ordered. Cut the link. The squad obeyed, plasma bolts searing the ancient runes. The basin lit up in violent blues and reds, each explosion carving craters in the sand. For a heartbeat, the wolf recoiled, its form warping like smoke and wind. Then it howled again, and 2 more answered from the abyss. The pack emerged. One crawled with limbs too long, dragging bone against rock. Another leapt from wall to wall like a phantom, leaving claw marks that smoked. Their combined presence made the monolith vibrate, a heartbeat of the old world, thudding in the dark. Kia whispered a curse. This isn't a hunting pack, it's a vanguard. Horus understood the deeper horror. The snake had been a test, a warning. These wolves were not conquerors. They were scouts. And if 3 had awoken, more would follow. Fallback point Delta. Horus snapped. Lay mines as you move. We're not here to win. We're here to shut the door. Explosives bloomed behind them as they retreated through the collapsing basin. Sand poured in torrents, cliffs cracking under the strain of too much ancient weight shifting at once. The wolves followed, silent now, no longer testing, hurting. Each movement they made was surgical, designed not to kill outright, but to push the humans deeper into the maze. Kia saw it first. They're steering us. They want us to run. Then we stop running, Horus growled. At the basin's narrowest point, Horus planted the spear in the ground. Its core hummed as the fail-safe armed, a blast charge strong enough to take half the cliff with it. Get the team clear. Kia turned on him, eyes blazing. No, you don't get to die in another crater. We finish this together. Horus looked at her, really looked. In the cold light of the moons, the scars on her face were maps of every war they'd survived. Every line of them said the same thing. We've already buried too many. Together, then, he said. The first wolf came. This time, they were ready. Plasma mines erupted beneath its feet, tearing one leg into shards of bone light. It screamed, an alien, metallic wail that made the sand ripple. Horus hurled his spear, embedding it in the wolf's chest, pinning it to the monolith's edge. The second wolf lunged for Kia. She met it midair with a magnetic lance, twisting as its jaws snapped shut inches from her throat. The weapon discharged, sending both of them tumbling into the sandstorm. The third did not attack. It watched, and then it spoke. A voice like breaking glass crawled into their helmets. You broke one cage, and now you open another. For a moment, even the wind stopped. Horus's blood turned to ice. The snake had never spoken. The titans roared, they killed, they conquered, but they did not speak. What are you? He demanded. The wolf's silver eyes gleamed. A herald. A scout. The moon's first tooth. When the sky cracks, you will remember this night, and you will beg for the snake again. Then it lunged not for them, but for the monolith itself, sinking its claws deep into the glyphs. The ground convulsed. Lights erupted across the basin in a grid, a map of something buried far deeper than the wolves. "Captain," Kia shouted, "they're not here to kill us. They're here to open the door for something worse." Horace knew what she meant before she said it. The wolf was not the war. It was the key. The basin groaned like a living thing. Sand slid from the cliffs in relentless waves, burying trenches, swallowing mine fragments and broken spears. Above, the twin moons hung low, one full, one a jagged crescent, casting wolf-shaped shadows across the battlefield. Horace tightened his grip on the detonator. His thumb hovered over the trigger. One press, and half the desert would cave in. The wolves would be buried. The monolith would shatter. But so would every answer. And Horace had learned one brutal lesson in this war. Sometimes, survival was not victory. Truth was. "Captain, what's the order?" Kia's voice was raw over the comm, the storm whipping against her visor. He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he watched the grid of light pulse below, the ancient glyphs blooming in perfect sequence, each line etching itself into the earth like a living circuit. The wolves had arranged this, their movements precise as fingers on a keyboard. And now, the desert was typing something back. Horace spoke finally, voice low. "We're not here to win. We're here to learn what they fear losing." Kia cursed under her breath. "You want to follow them in there? I want to know what makes them howl." The first wolf still twitched on the spear, its body phasing in and out like a bad transmission. Every time it flickered, the runes around it flared brighter, feeding the pulse that sank ever deeper beneath the sand. Horace approached it, slow, measured. "Why open a door you can't close?" he asked. The wolf's head turned, bones cracking like old wood. Its voice was a whisper of frost. "Because the door was never ours. It was yours." Then its body collapsed, no blood, no carcass, just a scatter of ash and a single shard of obsidian shaped like a tooth. Kia retrieved it, gloves hissing as its surface burned faintly with stored energy. "Captain, this isn't Titan tech. It's older." Horace looked up at the monolith, then at the horizon where their evac beacon still blinked faintly. So far away, it felt like another world. "Send the data to command. Tell them Cairo was wrong." "About what?" "About who built the cages." The pack regrouped in the distance, their outlines blurred by the rising sandstorm. They didn't charge. They didn't retreat. They waited. Horace recognized the stance. Predators guarding a hatchling nest. The ground beneath his boots shifted. With a grinding roar, a spiral staircase revealed itself. Ancient stone, perfectly preserved, descending into darkness. The wolves had not broken the earth. They had unlocked it. "This is it," Horace said. "The heart of the cage." Kia stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "You want to go down there?" "With them watching." "With them waiting," he corrected. "They could have killed us a dozen times already. They didn't. Because they want you to open it, Captain." "Exactly." He turned to the squad. Only 5 of them remained now, faces gray from ash and exhaustion, armor cracked, eyes hollow but burning. Not one of them spoke against him. Because they all knew this was bigger than the mission. This was the moment the war stopped being a war and became a reckoning. The descent. The staircase was cold. Each step hummed faintly beneath their boots, reacting to their presence. Symbols ignited in sequence along the walls, spirals, eyes, and something that looked disturbingly like a human hand. 5 fingers reaching toward a star. "This isn't Titan language," Kia murmured, scanning. "These are pre-Exodus, maybe even pre-human." Horace's breath misted in the chill air. Or maybe they were never meant for us. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The wind faded. The wolves above vanished from their sensors. Even their heartbeats seemed muted, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then they reached the chamber. A cathedral of black stone stretched before them, its ceiling lost to shadows. At its center stood a structure shaped like a pyramid shattered in reverse, its pieces hovering, orbiting a glowing core. Around it, skeletal remains lay in a perfect ring. Human. Definitely human. "Oh my God," one soldier whispered. "We've been here before." Kia knelt beside a skull. Its jaw was marked with the same sigil as the monolith above. "This isn't just a cage. It's a keyhole." The decision. Horus approached the core. His visor flooded with warnings, radiation spikes, temporal shear, magnetic anomalies. But he kept moving until the heat seared through his boots. In the reflection of the orb, he saw himself. And behind him, the outline of the wolves, standing silent at the threshold, watching like priests at a ceremony. "Captain," Kia's voice cracked. "If you touch that thing." "The war doesn't matter if we don't know what started it," he cut in. "This isn't about fighting them. It's about waking what they serve." He reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the core, the chamber screamed. Not with sound, with memory. Images flooded their minds. Skies burning red. Cities made of obsidian spires. Human fleets fleeing a collapsing star. And behind them, always behind them, the silhouette of a creature that was not snake, not wolf, but something with a crown of spines and a heart of lightning. The wolves didn't create the cages. They were guards for something humanity locked away. The warning. The vision snapped. Horus fell to his knees, breath ragged. Kia dragged him back, her own eyes wide with the aftershock. "What did you see?" she demanded. Horus didn't answer right away. He looked back at the wolves. They were gone. Only their tracks remained, leading out of the chamber into the night above. No ambush. No kill. Just a message, written in claw marks. "You remember now. Choose your side." When the sky broke open, the desert was no longer still. What had been a silent graveyard minutes ago now pulsed with a rhythm older than the war itself. The glyphs on the monolith were no longer dormant. They were a heartbeat, pounding in time with something beneath the sands. Horus emerged from the ancient stairwell, his visor polarized against the sudden brightness. It wasn't the sun. It was the horizon. A line of light stretched across it like a blade being drawn from a sheath, white at first, then shifting to a hue that made the human mind instinctively recoil. Violet black, the color of storms that eat stars. "Captain, we've got movement." Kia shouted. Not wolves. Something bigger. He didn't need her sensors. He could feel it. The desert air was dense now, as if the world had been covered by a glass dome and the pressure was building to shatter it. The sky splits. The first sound was not thunder. It was shearing, like the sound of metal tearing, but on a planetary scale. Above them, the twin moons flickered. Then one split. A perfect crack ran down its center, glowing with the same symbols that had awoken below. Shards of lunar rock drifted out like glowing embers. The squad stared, weapons forgotten. "By all stars," whispered Nox, the youngest of them. "That's not possible." "It's not the moon," Horus said. "It's a seal." And now it was unlocking. The wolves return. From the ridges, the wolves howled, not in rage this time, but in ceremony. Their bodies glowed faintly, their fur-lined armor shedding strips of light that dissolved into the wind. They did not attack. They formed a ring around the excavation site, their blades drawn but pointed down. Guardians again. Horus understood their message. "You open the door. Now witness what was behind it." "Captain orders." Kia's fingers hovered on her railgun trigger. "Hold," Horus said. "If they wanted us dead, they'd already have our bones for banners." The awakening. The fissure in the moon widened until it revealed something. It was not a ship. It was not alive. It was a lattice of colossal black pillars arranged like the ribs of a serpent skeleton, each one tipped with obsidian spines. And within that frame a pulse of white flame. The flame expanded, contracting in waves. Each time it did, the desert's glyphs brightened. The monolith hummed like a bell, and the wolves began to kneel. "Kia," Horus said slowly, "send this feed to command. No edits. No filters. They'll shut it down. Then make sure someone leaks it before they do." The broadcast. Across the squad's HUD, a message flashed. Encrypted Priority Alpha. Cairo Command. Cease transmission immediately. Horus ignored it. This is no longer their secret, he said. This is ours. Humanity reacts. In orbit, a fleet stirred. Fragments of intercepted comms crackled over their comlinks, firing solutions on the artifact. This is not sanctioned excavation. This is breach of containment. Titan Command denies prior knowledge of sealed structures. Kia snarled. They're going to nuke the site. Let them try, Horus said. It's not the site that matters. It's what's waking. And as if to prove his point, the sand beneath them shifted again, this time not collapsing, but breathing. A gust of heat escaped the fissure, carrying the smell of scorched metal and something older, something feral. The first herald. A shadow rose from the breach. It was not massive, not yet. Human-sized, armored in a style older than any record, its helmet shaped like a jackal skull, its hands holding a staff made of living stone. Where it stepped, the sand turned to glass. The wolves lowered their heads. The squad raised their rifles. Horus raised his hand, not to fire, but to halt. Identify yourself, he called. The figure's head tilted. Its voice was like desert wind through bone. We are the memory of your crime. The crime. Kia whispered, Captain, it's speaking Terran root. Ancient Terran. Horus's jaw clenched. What crime? He demanded. The figure lifted its staff, pointing at the cracked moon. You built the cage. You sealed the WRM. You fled. And now you come again, with blades and fire, to ask why the sand hates you. We didn't build that, Horus snapped. We're here to fight the Titans. The Titans. The figure laughed, a dry, brittle sound. Children. Hungry dogs that gnawed at the lock you left. You think them masters? They are scavengers at your table. The WRM. The violet-black glow in the sky pulsed again. The shape within the cracked moon stirred. Not fully. Not yet. But enough for its shadow to stretch across the desert. A shape so vast the dunes looked like ocean waves under its presence. What is it? Nox whispered. The figure turned its hollow eyes to them. The first predator. The one your kind could not kill, only chain. The WRM that taught the stars to fear silence. Why wake it now? Horus said. We did not wake it. You did. The betrayal. The comlink screeched. A missile lock warning flashed red across their HUDs. From the high atmosphere, a human cruiser broke stealth, its belly lined with fusion warheads. Cairo Command had made its decision. Incoming strike. 20 seconds. Kia shouted. Horus swore. Of course. If they can't own it, they'll bury it. Captain, we need to retreat. Horus looked at the glowing fissure, the kneeling wolves, the ancient guardian. And he made a choice. No. We hold the line. The stand. The squad formed a perimeter around the fissure. The wolves howled, not in challenge this time, but in unison with the humans, a chorus that shook the dunes. The first missile fell. It did not hit. The monolith's glyphs flared and the air itself bent, the missile folding like paper before vanishing into a spiral of violet-black light. Then the second fell, and the third. Each was swallowed. Above, the human cruiser blinked out of orbit, not destroyed, simply erased. The shift. Horus stared at the place the cruiser had been. We're past the point of war, he said quietly. We're inside their game now. The Guardian lowered its staff. Not their game, it corrected. Your penance. The hook. Far away, across 3 sectors, other moons began to crack. Old seals stirred. And in the heart of Cairo Command, alarms blared, not because of the wolves, not because of the Titans. Because humanity's oldest weapons were waking up, and they remembered who left them behind. The battlefield had fallen eerily silent. Not the silence of victory, nor the stillness of defeat. This was the void before storm, when every breath tasted like iron, and the horizon itself seemed to hold its breath. Amir stood at the fractured altar of the ancient monolith, his energy spear crackling weakly in his grasp. The twin moons hung above, one whole, one fractured and bleeding violet-black radiance across the sky, like a wound that would never close. Around him, The sands were a graveyard of steel and flesh, human and alien alike. Yet, in that silence, something moved. The ground trembled. The dunes rippled outward in concentric waves. Soldiers turned their heads as a low growl, no, a chorus of growls, rolled across the darkening horizon. "The wolf titan isn't retreating," whispered Celine, her voice barely audible over the howl of the rising wind. "It's calling them." Amir's grip tightened. His HUD flared as signatures emerged from beneath the sand, scores, then hundreds. Wolf-shaped horrors, some armored like living tanks, others spectral and translucent, their forms bending the air around them like heat haze. The Titan had never fought alone. Now, neither could humanity. "Form the line." Amir's voice cut through the dread like a blade. "Shield units, arc formation. Energy cores, forward. We hold until the fleet realigns." From the east, a cluster of surviving Egyptian cruisers descended, engines screaming as they released drop pods. Reinforcements slammed into the sand, unfolding into phalanx walls of nanoplated shields and autocannons. The battlefield flickered alive again, searchlights, plasma beams, the low thrum of power surging through human tech not meant to last this long. And then the horizon broke. The wolf titan emerged, not alone, but at the head of a living tide. Its metallic fur gleamed with lunar silver, each step cracking the crust of the desert, as if the planet itself resented its weight. Behind it, spectral wolves howled, their echoes clawing into the minds of the soldiers. The fractured moon pulsed in answer, a heart beating in orbit. Celine leaned close. "If we take out the monolith, the tide might break." "No," Amir said, eyes locked on the Titan. "The monolith is a beacon. The moon is the key. Break the moon, and we end its call." That was madness. To strike the moon meant turning their orbital weapons on something that had already destabilized the planet's magnetic field. But in HFY wars, madness often birthed miracles. Amir activated the uplink. "Command, this is Spear Point 1. Redirect orbital lances to the fractured moon. Synchronize with my marker." Static. Then a voice, "That will destabilize the rift. You'll collapse half the desert." "Better a broken desert," Amir growled, "than a dead world." The first lance fired. A line of white-hot plasma carved the sky, striking the cracked moon's surface. The glow intensified, rippling outward like veins of molten glass. The wolf titan stopped mid-step, its ears twitching, its head lifting as if scenting an unseen predator. It roared, not in pain, in fury. The ground split. Sand turned to ash. And the battlefield became a storm of motion, wolves leaping, soldiers firing, beams crisscrossing the night. Amir waded into it like a living spear, his armor dented, his shield nearly drained. Each strike of his weapon left a trail of plasma burns and ash. Each block saved another soldier's life. But the Titan wasn't fighting to win. It was fighting to delay. Because something far worse was coming through that rift. Celine screamed from the flank. "Amir, the rift's widening. Something's forcing it open." He turned. And there, within the shattered moonlight, a second shape emerged, a creature not wolf, not snake, but a hybrid of both. A WRM with a wolf skull and a serpent's body, lined with metallic spines. Its eyes burned with the same ancient light as the Titan's. The war wasn't ending. It was escalating. "Pull back," Amir ordered, even as his own legs trembled from a power drain. "Regroup at the valley. We need every charge cell we've got left." The soldiers moved like a tide against the tide, retreating with discipline only humans could muster after seeing their dead rise as shadows. Plasma fire stitched the night. Explosions painted the dunes. The wolf titan advanced still. It didn't care about the moon. It didn't care about the cost. It cared about the monolith and the prisoner within. Because as Amir fell back, his scanners caught something they had missed before. A figure, bound to the altar. Not human, not fully alive. A warrior of their kind. A Titan's herald. Celine caught his arm. "We can't take it now." "No," Amir whispered, eyes narrowing. "But we'll take it secret." As they vanished into the dunes, the moon's surface finally cracked. A beam of violet light split the desert in two, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The Titan howled, its voice carrying beyond sound, beyond matter. The spectral wolves dissolved, then reformed, now angrier, now more real. Humanity had struck first blood. But in doing so, they had declared war on something far older than the Titan before them. And from the shadows of the cracked moon, a voice whispered, words no one should have understood, but all did. The hunt has begun.